Let's make homemade granola. This is so easy to make, and it's so much cheaper to make it yourself than to pay, what, like $5, $8 for a tiny little bag at the store. So this is also a fun recipe because you can customize it. You can make any kind of granola you want as long as you use just a general base of like oats. I use like crisp rice cereal in mine. So the first thing I'm going to do, I just picked out my ingredients, and I do have my exact recipe that I will link for you in the description. Then I lined a big baking sheet with a silicone mat. You can use parchment paper too, but that just makes your life easier. Now I'm measuring out the ingredients for the granola. So I have a lot of kids. I'm making a big batch. This is 4 times what I would normally make. So I'm going to give you the recipe for just making 1 small quart of granola, and you're going to start with 1 tablespoon of maple syrup, 1 tablespoon of melted coconut oil. That's what you see in this measuring cup. Now, I also use sourdough starter in mine, but you don't have to have a sourdough starter to make this granola. If you do have a starter, then you would use a 1/4 cup of starter. If you don't, just use 2 tablespoons of flour and 2 tablespoons of water. The substitution will work just fine if you want to make a sourdough starter. I can teach you how to do that though. I'll link my video and blog tutorials for that. The next thing I'm adding is 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. So just keep in mind, if what you're seeing on the screen doesn't align with what I'm saying, it's because I'm making a quadruple batch of this. After the brown sugar, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, a 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon, a 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg. And keep in mind, you can mix up these seasonings depending on what type of granola you're making. You can leave the nutmeg out or cinnamon out. I'm adding a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. I'm going to just mix this all up. So this is our liquidy mixture that's going to cause the granola to stick together in the oven. Now I'm adding my seeds. So I did sunflower seeds in this particular granola, just 2 tablespoons of sunflower seeds. But you can use any seed you want. You can use chia seeds, any kind of seed, or you can leave the seeds out and just add more of another ingredient like nuts. So I'm doing a mix of walnuts and pecans, just a 1/2 cup of chopped raw nuts of your choice. Gonna add this into my liquidy, sticky mixture that's gonna, like I said, cause the granola to stick together in clusters. Now I'm adding my dry ingredients. So I am adding, I think I said this already, but I didn't add it. I'm adding the rolled oats, a cup of rolled oats, and a 1/2 cup of crisp rice cereal. Okay, so that recipe that I just shared will make a quart of granola, meaning you will not fill up an entire baking sheet if you make that much, but I'm making a big gallon jar. So I mixed up all of those ingredients, spread it out over my baking sheet, and I am baking it in a preheated oven at 350 degrees. So what I'm doing now, I bake it for 20 minutes, and then I personally like mine to really stick together in clusters and just have a little bit of crisp. So after that 20 minutes, I actually rotate the baking sheet 180 degrees to make sure that like the back doesn't get burnt, and I bake mine for another 8 to 10 minutes. But if you like yours lighter, you can actually pull it out after the initial 20 minutes baking time. Now this is really important. If you want to add any chips, like chocolate chips, peanut butter chips, or cinnamon chips. These are cinnamon chips, and oh my goodness, they're so good. But if you want to add any like meltable chips to your granola, don't do it before you bake it because it will all just melt in. You want to do it right when you pull it out of the oven. That's what you saw me do. I pulled this granola out of the oven, added my cinnamon chips, and then the most important thing I did to get big clusters like this was I walked away for an hour. Let your granola rest and cool and come to room temperature for 30 to 60 minutes before you try to break it into clusters, or it will not set. It'll be like granola dust, just little pieces of oats. So once it is completely cooled and set, break it into clusters the size of your choosing. I break mine into smaller clusters because we like to eat it like this a lot. Like I said, I've got lots of kids. This is our cereal. So I break it into, cereal sized clusters, and it will actually store at room temperature once it's totally cooled off in a airtight container for up to a month. Isn't that crazy? So this is just a really easy breakfast to have prepared and keep on hand, and I love it with fresh fruit, with yogurt. So good with so many things. The detailed recipe is linked in the description.